Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a totally critical piece of regulation, the Saudi Food and Drug Authority's official guidance on managing medical device safety. You might know it as MDSG 29. We're going to break down the absolute foundations of risk communication to see exactly how the safety of medical tech is monitored, managed, and communicated. Whether you're a healthcare pro, a device manufacturer, or just someone who really wants to know how public health is protected behind the scenes, this explainer is going to show you how the whole system actually works. Okay, let's dive in.
Seriously, I want you to think about that for a second. What actually happens when a life-saving device, say a pacemaker, a surgical laser, or an MRI machine, has a hidden risk? The stakes here are incredibly high. We aren't talking about a software glitch on your phone. We are talking about human lives. So effective risk communication isn't just some regulatory hurdle or bureaucratic red tape. It's a vital, active solution that literally saves lives. It's the system that guarantees that the second a risk is identified, the right people know exactly what to do.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the stakes of device safety, followed by the core foundations of communication, then crafting the perfect safety message, real-world risk management, and finally, official channels and crisis control.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the stakes of device safety. So, the SFDA guidance document MDSG-29 is essentially the ultimate rulebook. Its core purpose? To enhance the exchange of information related to medical device risks, and this covers the entire life cycle of a product. We're talking everything from the initial design and manufacturing phases through importation and distribution, all the way to patient use and post-market follow-up. The ultimate goal here is total transparency. By ensuring a seamless flow of information between manufacturers, healthcare facilities, and the general public, everyone is empowered to identify potential risks and make smart, informed decisions. Moving right along to Section 2, the core foundations of communication.
First off, let's pin down exactly what we mean. Risk communication is the exchange of information related to medical device risks among concerned parties to identify potential hazards, make appropriate decisions, and enhance user safety. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is the human element. This isn't just data pinging from one server to another. It's about empowering patients and healthcare providers, increasing trust, promoting health literacy, and ensuring doctors can accurately balance the potential benefits against the risks for their specific patients.
Now, what are the bedrock principles guiding all this? Sure, you've got regulatory compliance and mitigating legal liability. That's standard. It protects manufacturers and builds public trust. But what really stands out is the strict mandate for cultural sensitivity and inclusivity. The guidance dictates that communication absolutely must account for diverse linguistic backgrounds and be totally accessible. This means providing formats like Braille, subtitles, or voiceovers so that critical safety warnings actually reach vulnerable populations who might not be super digitally connected. Add in standardized consistency and strict accountability, and you make sure everyone gets the exact same reliable message. This next principle from the guidance is particularly striking. It focuses on a core trio: benefits, risks, and uncertainty. And this balance has to be maintained continuously at every single stage of the device's life cycle. You don't just wait to communicate when there's a total disaster. You communicate the benefits, you communicate the known risks, and crucially, you communicate what you don't know yet. That's the uncertainty. This continuous open transparency is really what builds lasting public trust.
Okay, this part is actually fascinating. Post-market surveillance doesn't just happen in a sterile clinic anymore. The SFDA officially uses social media monitoring as a vital risk communication channel. They're out there actively tracking platforms like X, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Why? To keep a pulse on public sentiment and to quickly identify and shut down dangerous rumors or misinformation about medical devices. They even use digital analytics to track how well their own safety messages are landing. It's an incredibly proactive approach.
Which brings us to Section 3, crafting the perfect safety message. Annex 1 takes a total jargon buster approach because, let's be real, a warning is completely useless if a non-specialist can't actually understand it. So the Annex mandates avoiding technical jargon, fractions, or complex numerical formats entirely. Instead, you have to use clear, simple, and unambiguous plain language. The wording needs to cover all relevant aspects of the risk, seamlessly explaining side effects and safe use instructions without making the reader's head spin. So how do you actually format these messages? There are some pretty strict do's and don'ts. First, use absolute values instead of relative terms. So instead of saying twice as likely, you give the actual numbers so the risk is crystal clear. Second, everything must be translated into both Arabic and English.
Third, you've got to use multiple formats: written, visual, audio, digital infographics, the whole shebang. Fourth, always provide support resources like FAQs or helplines. And finally, and I love this one, pre-test your materials with the target audience to make sure they actually get the message before you broadcast it to the world.
All right, moving into Section 4, Real-World Risk Management. Let's look at what happens when a risk is actually identified in the wild. It's basically a 3-step life-saving narrative. Step 1, the SFDA receives a report of an adverse event or complaint through their official channels. Step 2, they investigate the root cause and evaluate the risk level, talking directly with the manufacturer to get the technical data. Step 3, mitigation. They ensure field safety corrective actions, or FSCAs, are rolled out. This could be anything from recalling a bad batch to updating instructions, all to prevent recurrence and protect patients.
Now, to support all this investigation, manufacturers have to do some serious heavy lifting. Through the official GHAD platform, they are required to submit extensive technical documentation. We're talking post-market surveillance reports, periodic safety update reports, clinical evaluation reports, and massive risk management files. Basically, they have to prove on paper that they are actively and continuously assessing the risks of their devices.
But here's the thing, the SFDA doesn't just sit around waiting for complaints to roll in. When they spot a potential safety signal, they go on the offensive. They collect real-world data, or RWD, by shooting targeted surveys directly to the Saudi HCP expert network, special interest groups, and specialized doctors. They're engaging the medical professionals right there on the front lines to evaluate potential issues based on what they are seeing in their day-to-day clinics.
And that leads us to our final section, Part 5, Official Channels and Crisis Control.
Annex 2 of the guidance maps out exactly where all this communication lives and who uses what. The SFDA Media Center is the main public hub for education, alerts, and recalls. The NCMDR platform, that's the critical database for reporting adverse events and managing those corrective actions we talked about. The GHAD platform is where manufacturers submit their heavy regulatory files like risk assessments, and official emails serve as the direct, secure line for urgent safety communications sent straight to specific contact officers at healthcare facilities. And speaking of healthcare facilities, they are literally the final secure link in the chain of safe medical device use. They have super strict responsibilities. Every single facility must assign a qualified contact officer to act as the direct liaison with the SFDA. This officer has to regularly review safety alerts and make sure corrective actions actually happen on the ground. Plus, facilities are legally bound to report any unregistered, fraudulent, or unauthorized devices, as well as all medical device-related adverse events, straight to the NCMDR platform. But what about when things go wrong? And they go wrong fast. That is where emergency communication plans kick in. The guidance says you have to have plans established for any crisis to ensure rapid dissemination of risk info to stakeholders and the public. Under all that intense pressure, the system relies heavily on the SFDA call center, that's 1999.9, and direct official emails to rapidly stabilize the threat. And importantly, it doesn't just end when the fire is put out. There always has to be a post-crisis review to figure out what worked and how to improve the system for next time. We've covered the absolute foundations of risk communication today, from regulatory rules and cultural sensitivity down to the exact platforms used to pull a faulty device off the market. It is a massive, coordinated ecosystem designed to keep us safe. So, I'll leave you with one final thought to mull over. Now that you know exactly how risks are managed and communicated behind the scenes, are you paying enough attention to the medical devices you or your loved ones rely on every day?